insurance being the traditional legacy industry, and it sounds like most of all of your focus has been orientating on the customer. And that's a big differentiator from maybe the traditional aspects of the industry. But kind of playing upon that, is like interested to know how you keep that tech startup mentality in a legacy space. And in particular, Jen, I'd love to start with you because we had a brief conversation about this around in regards to data and how traditionally it's been a very guarded aspect of the industry, very valuable. But you kind of talked about this theme of, how can we break through this? How can we not have this siloed data, and how can we partner in ways to really make this valuable for our customers and the consumer? So I guess, yeah, the question would be around your thoughts on the future of data and partnerships in a legacy industry.
Yeah. So we think about it a lot, and there's the way the industry runs today, and there's a lot of reasons that it is the way it is. And part of what I think a lot about is how do we appreciate that, and then think about how we can honor those and address those where needed with modern technology, or if we can promote a change, where can we promote a change, and how do we take someone on that journey? So it's something that we've thought about from really early days. We were incredibly lucky with our first hire with someone who on the product side came from industry, and things that we did early on and we continue to do is think about how would Jen, who has a background in tech, think about this problem statement, sounding board that with Sandy in this case. This was the early pattern of what does the industry think? Where can we find common ground? Where do we think it's appropriate to challenge? And where is it not appropriate to challenge? Because it's actually really, really complicated. And sometimes you have to look at that and think about translating it, but it's not about changing it. So we think about that a lot of what is appropriate for us to push on right now, where can we push, and where can we just implement improvements for our customers. Data has been a really interesting one for us, and I imagine for everyone on this call, where it was very surprising to me how challenging it was to get good, consistent data throughout the ecosystem. And so, John nodded to this of you're filling something out multiple times. That means there's multiple instances of Jen in the industry. There's different intake processes with different levels of control. And so there's a massive opportunity that we think exists in this space of having folks partner to think about more consistent and stable data sources, especially around identity. It's a space that we're working on. We know that it'll mean a change for folks, and part of how you make that reasonable is there's an upside to that that makes it a valuable part of someone's workflow. And so I imagine, across the board, we've all seen opportunities with that in our business. But I'm quite excited to see what the next couple of years look like as different parts of the industry think about the value of exchanging data and having more transparent and accessible data sources. It's a passion of mine. I'd be curious to hear if John or Alexander have any thoughts on it.
A lot of the threads you're mentioning, we see and think about. I mean, the application thing that John was talking about, that is an order of magnitude more annoying in E&S and wholesale, because you go to the admitted market, you're an agent, and you take your handy person to the admitted market and you submit on their portal, which is at this point quite nicely designed, very automated, great to use, and it declines. And you try 2 more markets and you input the data into their portal again 2 more times, and you get 2 declines, and you're like, now I'm going to wholesale. And you email the wholesaler all the information you used on the admitted portals, and the wholesaler responds, they're like, please fill out the 3 attached PDFs. And so now you've got 40 pages of PDFs you're filling out. And they also probably want to fill out a cord too, because there's probably one market that wants that. And so that's a very real story that happens every day. And to Jen's point on data, there's a reason why in E&S, every risk needs to be underwritten a little differently. You're really truly underwriting the nature of operations of the business, just not the single class code. The rating matters in a different way. And so each of these organizations has a different model that's battle tested. It's profitable for their shareholders on how they underwrite this business. And the problem is just the process of getting the data into that system is absolutely convoluted. I hesitate to say broken, because it's there for a reason. There's incentives, there's market structure, but to what Jen is saying, it's incredibly siloed. And I probably have the same, I don't want to say biases, but like I came from a world where it's like all dynamic web applications, everything's in a database. Digital partnerships are a very mature part of the ecosystem. Passing data back and forth is not something you do in Excel spreadsheets. It's first principles. We get there through using APIs or other data transfer mechanisms. And it's not to say that the industry is like moving in that direction. The commercial insurance industry is just not quite there yet. And the power structures at some of the companies aren't quite there yet either. So point being, this is also a passion of mine, I guess, is where I'm going with this. And we think about this a lot internally too.
Yeah, and I think these are all really good points with the rest of the panel. And just to add on, a couple things. One, in commercial P&C, it's interesting, or what I find interesting is that there are definitely alternative data sources, and there's things that we're using. At the same time, it may not be as robust as it is in some other lines, particularly as you get into more specialization. So at Vouch, we're using external data sources, but we also try to balance that with simple digital applications and getting that information from a client. To take an example, so we write other insurtechs, and we'll write their E&O. We'll write companies like Vouch that are providing insurance services, and the difference in exposure and rate and segmentation of a company that is handling claims themselves versus just selling insurance. I don't want to say just selling, but engaged in selling insurance. Those are completely different risks. The expense is going to be 5 to 10 times higher when you're managing claims directly. And that's an example where, and we run across all the time, I don't think we have great data sources for that other than to simply ask the client. And then it becomes about how do we do it efficiently so we're only asking once and using that to feed any other applications or rating that we might need to use it for. So that's really, really important for us. And then the second point, and it's building on I think what Jen talked about, is it is important to also ask with data, what is it we need to honor about traditional insurance and what don't we need to honor? And we're asking ourselves those questions daily. When there are certain things about data and getting that data in underwriting and pricing risks that are really important, but there's a lot, as I mentioned, when you have 4 laptops, I don't need to know your roof type or construction type. So let's just get rid of that. And so I guess the other flip side of this is, I guess where I'm headed with this is it's important not to underestimate the importance of just getting rid of data you don't really need and not asking for it and not trying to pursue it when it doesn't ultimately matter.